My girlfriend was assaulted, and she wanted to keep the baby. I was struggling to comprehend her choice until the awful reality behind her decision came to light. My girlfriend, Chloe, was my entire world. But after the attack at the party, I begged her not to attend. Everything shifted. She chose to continue the pregnancy, referring to it as a blessing. When she first told me, I couldn't share her perspective. All I could see was the violence she'd endured. I felt terrible for considering walking away, but the idea of raising another man's child felt like an impossible burden. I loved Chloe, but it was all too much. I went to my friend Mark's place. I asked for his opinion, what he would do in my shoes. He made a joke, starting with, if I were Chloe or if I were you. I regretted going, knowing Mark turns everything into a punchline. After I seriously explained my feelings, he said the choice was mine. If it was too much, I should leave. He admitted he wouldn't stay, but urged me to decide based on our relationship. I agreed and drove away more conflicted than before. On the drive home, I called Jason, a brother from my college fraternity. I laid out the whole situation, but since we drifted apart, I framed it as a hypothetical. I think he guessed it was real. He said if he loved Chloe, he'd stay. She was already dealing with the trauma, and I shouldn't add to her pain. He also argued for the child's sake, saying kids without fathers often struggle. I'd forgotten Jason was pro-life, but I was desperately seeking validation. By the time we hung up, I was home. I knew I had to reach this decision alone. I went inside and asked Chloe if we could talk. I confessed my feelings, how sorry I was for her suffering, and how torn she must feel. Chloe came from a devout Catholic home, attending Mass multiple times a week. I knew her background, so suggesting termination was futile. When I did, she looked at me as if I'd suggested something monstrous. She said I already knew her answer. I then admitted I wasn't comfortable raising a child that wasn't mine and how it could strain us. She replied that if I had a problem with it, I wasn't the one for her, calling me selfish for wanting to leave after her ordeal. I promised to support her healing and therapy, but said a baby would alter our relationship completely. She ended the conversation and stormed off to the bedroom. I felt defeated, unsure what to do. I truly loved Chloe, but I was torn, fearing a future of resentment. The following weeks were an emotional roller coaster. We'd have wonderful days, going on dates and enjoying each other. Then Chloe would mention the baby or how she'd miss these quiet times after the birth, reigniting our same argument. I'd say she wouldn't have to miss anything if we ended the pregnancy. She'd call me selfish and insist I let her have this. It always ended the same. Chloe was keeping the baby. After a few calm days, she'd assume I'd accepted it, and things would return to normal until the cycle repeated. I couldn't grasp why Chloe, only 19, would want this. Babies are expensive. We were in college, drowning in loans. A child would sink us further. I understood her religious upbringing, but she'd never shown much interest in having kids before. What had changed? That night, lying in the dark, I resolved to find out what shifted and if we could move past it. The next day, I invaded Chloe's privacy and looked through her phone. I know it was wrong, but our talks only led to fights. I needed to understand her desperation. I saw texts with her friend Anna, mostly memes and chat about Anna's love life, rarely mentioning the baby. Her other messages were store coupons. I felt hopeless until I found the group chat with her parents. I opened it and saw a message from her mother from the night after the incident. Her mom wrote that Chloe wouldn't have been assaulted if she didn't flaunt her belly ring, that her partying had led to this. The rant filled the screen. She criticized her makeup, saying she'd attracted male attention since she was young, even blaming her for a priest at their old church having to step down. She called her a Jezebel and said keeping the baby would make her slow down. She ended by saying Chloe got what she deserved. Chloe's reply wasn't there. She had likely called her mom instead, which her call log confirmed. Just then, Chloe walked into the kitchen. I quickly closed the app and set her phone down, scrambling to collect myself. I greeted her with a hug and a kiss, my heart aching for what she'd endured. I asked how she was, trying to be compassionate. I wanted to discuss everything, but couldn't reveal my snooping. She said she was managing, but the bags under her eyes said otherwise. When I asked how I could help, she said breakfast would solve everything. I chuckled and reached for the fridge. Over the next few weeks, I cared for her diligently, but the knowledge that her parents were forcing her to keep the baby gnawed at me. I hated that she had no advocate, but I was torn, fearing another argument or losing her trust. One night, after drawing her a bath and cooking her favorite meal, I asked to talk. Over dinner, she asked what she'd done to deserve the special treatment. I told her for being the best girlfriend, and we laughed. Then, growing serious, I asked if we could talk. Her expression shifted from contentment to wariness. I confessed everything, snooping, seeing her mom's message, and knowing she didn't truly want the baby but was pressured by her parents. I said I wanted the full truth from her. She broke down crying. I held her as she wept, a dam of emotions breaking. The assault, our relationship, her parents, the baby, and school. Through her tears, she admitted she wanted to move on, but the baby was a constant reminder of that night. I reassured her I was there for her. She nodded. I said we could terminate the pregnancy if that was her true wish. She nodded again, yes. The next morning, I brought her breakfast in bed. After we ate, I gently asked if she'd meant what she said. She hesitated, confessing she was scared of her parents' reaction. I told her she wasn't under their roof, and they were a toxic influence. She agreed, grabbing her laptop to search for a clinic. We found one and scheduled an appointment. I asked how she was feeling mentally, if she'd grown attached. She looked me in the eye and asked if she could be honest. I said absolutely. She confessed that every day she felt she had a parasite inside her, making her feel dirty. She knew it wasn't the baby's fault, but she could never love it like a mother should. Talking to me, she felt relieved. Her mother only made her feel guilty, and her friend Anna, who practiced their faith more strictly, was just as critical. The day of the appointment arrived. I drove Chloe and waited. After the procedure, she felt dizzy and sore, so I took her home and settled her on the couch with her favorite cooking show. Then her phone rang. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. We exchanged a worried glance. I asked if she would answer. She said her mom would call incessantly until she did. She picked up. Her mom asked how she was. Chloe said she was fine, just lightheaded. Her mom demanded to know why and if the baby was okay. Chloe choked up and said she needed rest. Her mom declared she was coming over and hung up. Chloe looked terrified. Unable to tell them the truth, I offered to handle it. When her parents arrived, I answered the door. They demanded to see Chloe. I told them she was resting, but to sit down for a talk. They sensed the topic and were immediately furious, demanding to know about the baby. Chloe entered the room, and they spotted the clinic's painkillers on the counter. I stood between them as they hurled hate at Chloe, calling her a family disgrace and blaming her attire. I ordered them to leave, or I'd call the police, saying they'd need to beg for forgiveness to ever be back in our lives. They spat that they wanted nothing to do with sinners like us and left. A year later, we were on our apartment balcony, enjoying a sunny Saturday. The doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone. I told Chloe to stay and answered the door. It was her parents. They said they missed their daughter and wanted to make amends. Chloe had already forgiven them in her heart, but said rebuilding trust would take years. They tried, coming for dinners and game nights, but without fail, their conversations turned sour, ending in arguments that forced us to leave. Chloe was in therapy, but the years of parental trauma weren't healed. After several failed attempts, she accepted the damage was irreversible. Their contact dwindled to nothing. Our relationship, however, grew strong and fulfilling. We knew we only needed each other to face whatever life brought.